Hey everybody, Cara here from Perspective-Based Parenting, and today I want to talk about the power of imitation and the absorption rate of it. Your baby's brain between 0 and 3, those really, really important years where it's all coming together for them, is like one big loofah, like a huge sponge. Think about your sponge. Think about your loofah. Let's go with sponge. Think about the sponge in your sink. Okay? You've got a few salad veggies that you just chopped up and you were just rinsing, and oops, they spilled and now they're in your sink. What else is in your sink? Residue, leftover pieces from somebody scrubbing a pot or a pan. Maybe there's some stuff in the little trap. You value the things that just fell by accident. They have value for you and you intend to use them and you intend to eat them and you would like them to be clean and delicious. You don't value the residue or the leftovers in your sink. Your sponge will clean them both up without regard for their value. Your sponge will happily absorb all of it. Okay? So will your baby's brain. All of it. Think about the environment that you live in. Think about the space that you are in. Think about the words that come out of your mouth. The frustration that's maybe all around you and edgy, or the calm that you're feeling. Think about the intention of your words. Think about the meaning behind the actions that you're taking. And not just directly with your child. You know, it's likely that you have one mode of operating when you're hanging out with your little baby, but you have a very different way of communicating with your partner. And maybe one is inherently positive and the other one holds some type of charge or negativity. Your beautiful little person's brain does not discriminate between the two. It absorbs all of it. And so if you have a lightning moment where you come up with this really great idea of how you're going to talk to your child when they're throwing food off their plate and you would really like that behavior to stop. You're not going to yell anymore. You're not going to use a frustrated voice anymore. You're going to calmly say, that is not a choice. And you're going to work it out in a really positive way. And I have all kinds of strategies for that. That's awesome. That's exciting. Yay on you. But then if you're going to turn 30 seconds later to an older child or to your partner and say, will you knock that off? Quit moving those things around on the table. I had them where I needed them. Your infant, your toddler absorbs them both equally as information to be gathered and sorted through. Okay, so that's the absorption piece. Now let's talk about the imitation piece. You know your little person imitates, right? You make a funny face, they make a funny face. You make a funny sound, they make a funny sound. They do something silly, you imitate them. Think about it. You don't even try. They coo, you coo back. They move their hands in a funny way and you go, oh, and you do it too. It's a knee-jerk reaction. We imitate each other. So think about the absorption piece we just talked about. And think about your child using you as their barometer for how they should move their body and what type of voice they should use and what type of motions they should do. I'm a trained I'm fluent in ASL and I'm a trained teacher of the deaf. And so I use signs from American Sign Language with kids from the day they're born because they can absorb that information over time. They can connect the sign and the meaning, mama, 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 over time. And here's the coolest part, they can produce that or some version of it. They'll baby sign before they get it just right. They can produce some version of that long before they can produce any type of auditory speech that we can comprehend. So I'm modeling intentionally. Mama, mama, dada, dada, mama, dada. And they're absorbing. And they will imitate it over time.
Mama, Mama, Mama. Do you sign Mama? Do you sign Mama?
So what I really want you to think about today is that even though you have a tiny creature right now, this beautiful human being who just lays there or rolls there or like makes eyes at you, who cannot talk, who cannot walk, the list of what they cannot do is far longer than the list of what they can do. But what's happening invisibly is in here. The absorption, sifting through the information, absorb, while you have a tiny, tiny person, be careful what you present to them. A good rule of thumb is hear it in your own head first, and if it's not something you would want to hear coming out of their mouth, rephrase. Catch yourself. You will be grateful for it in the long run. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today, beyond the fact that I believe so strongly in those invisible learning years, is that we are re-entering the world, and we've talked about that, right? We're re-entering the world, and what used to be hard is about to get harder because we all have our own fears and our own worries and our own anxieties and our own emotions and our own feelings and reactions about what's happening out in the world. Some people are following directions, some people are not, like that's just life. What you do have control over is your reaction and what you show to your children. For example, let's say you have a 2.5-year-old who has been home because of COVID, but is now going back to preschool, back to daycare. If you present, just in your general home, a feeling of anger, I'm so angry about all this. I can't understand why we have to do this. And this person made this huge mistake. And so now we have this problem. And if you're putting blame, and if your general energy about this is negative and angry and frustrated, theirs will be too. It's just that simple. But if your general energy is awareness of frustration and awareness of unease, that's completely different. Those are I am statements, and you can use those with your kids all day. I am so frustrated about what's going on in the world right now, but the good news is you get to go back and play with your friends, and I get to go back and work my job again. And yeah, we're going to deal with some tricky stuff, but we'll figure it out. How you act is how they act. How you speak is how they will speak. How you emote is how they will use emotions. Think about it. All right, everybody. Best of luck as we go into the next week of the spigot turning. It's starting to sound like a good soap opera, isn't it? And I will check in with you all soon.